healthcare and your work in healthcare a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about how this has sort of brought about an understanding of sustainability and operational resilience as an organization? And what have you learned from it that you are now sort of thinking about that has translated into other industries?
Yeah, I think the most important thing I've learned is that you have to understand the core business of your client. So healthcare, it's doctors and patients. That's what they care about. So while they might have bought our solution for energy savings, cost savings, the people who bought it from the people are very different from the people who are using it every day. So we have to think about who's going to use and experience our solution every day. Right? That was not that much part of our thinking process earlier. It was more like, okay, what's the benefit to the organization? But here it's not just the organization is a bunch of individuals who will experience your service over a period of time. And our relationships with our clients are 10 to 12 years long. And in those 10 to 12 years, we are gonna interface with so many people, right? So we have to really think about who's going to experience our service and how are we going to make that experience very, very seamless and much better than the current experience of similar services. So I think that's been the most important learning, that you have to think about your clients and their clients really deep, and you have to bake things into your solution. Like our product has features which are not required for energy savings at all. They're like reporting on the health of spaces. Like for example, this temperature and humidity, and messaging the right operator. So for example, I'll stick with that same example of the orthopedic surgeon. Standard case is that there would be a problem, and that surgeon would call the engineering head of the facility. The engineering head of the facility would depute an engineer to see what's the problem. That person may or may not have the expertise to be able to figure out what the problem is, right? They will probably need to call 2-3 other people to say, hey, I think this is the problem. It might be here, it might be here. And it would take them hours or days to find out what's the problem and to resolve the problem. Now, it's not about energy, right? This problem is about quality. So what we have done is we have done very, very detailed root cause analysis. Like we actually invest in more sensors to be able to identify and pinpoint where the problem is. Then we've written software to be able to actually give root cause analysis on the mobile phone of the person on duty on WhatsApp. That person on WhatsApp will find out before the doctor even calls the head of engineering and complains there's a problem. This person will get to know that there's a problem over here, or there is likely to be a problem over here, and it's actually in the actuator, or it's in the grill, or it's in the blower. What exactly is the problem? So that resolution of problems to improve quality, diagnostics, and also delivering the diagnostics in a manner that the person understands. On duty person on the mobile phone, which actually really enables the quality to improve. So this is not that, yeah.
So I think it sounds like your customer experience is something that you've really, really then had to think about. Yeah. And then I would imagine that that's something that you can translate across any industry that you're
entering. Yeah. What is their reality? The people who are going to use your service, not only the people who are going to buy your service. The reasons for people to use your service and continue to want your service are very different from what people bought it for, right? So you have to cater to that. I would say perhaps even more important to cater to that, because you have to be successful over long term.
No, it's so interesting because there is again parallel to hospitality, right? Because we sell, of course, hotels, what do you sell? You sell a room, you sell food.
Yeah.
But truly what do you sell is experience.
Absolutely.
Right? And at the end of the day, what we promise at Tamara is that we want to provide responsible and memorable experiences for our guests.
Yep.
So when you're trying to create a memorable experience, particularly, you have to look at it from every single angle.
So many angles. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think, you mentioned that you had gone to Coorg at one point, and you had gone trekking.
Amazing, memorable experience.
Thank you. I'm so glad.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and you went on a trek, you were telling me, and hopefully that was a really memorable.
Absolutely.
We are not selling the trek necessarily.
Yeah, no, I didn't even know. But we were pleasantly surprised that there were 3 waterfalls in the property, and then there's a trek right outside, and It was fantastic.
And that's what we want to leave you with, right? Like this idea that, this memory of what it feels like when you're on one of our properties. And it sounds like for you, the users and what they feel.
It's extremely important.
Like literally, really.
In fact, you can, I'm a nerdy engineer. So what I really love about cooling, which is what we now focus on mostly. So our energy savings are now all in cooling. So cooling is the largest end use of energy in India. The feeling goes into technology itself. So like right now we're getting cooled by air from grills. Now there are technologies which cool the entire building. The structure of the building is going to be cool.
Oh, interesting.
And that's what you're going to experience. So imagine like you're in a cave. There's no better thermal comfort than a cave, right? But there's no air blowing at you in a cave. The cave, the rocks are cold because there were water flowing through them.
Yes.
So that's a technology that we are really excited about for the future of India and a developing hot world. If you can make structures cool, then your body loses heat to the structure and you have this blissful feeling of being in a cave. Right? So it's really interesting.
Actually, very recently, we were actually working on a project in Bhutan. And it was the first time my brain had to switch gears to think about heating through piped solutions.
Right.
And it was such a shift because I think we've all focused on cooling in India for so long.
Yes.
And we have those solutions in place, and they've been thoroughly thought about. But it's interesting because you do have this opposite issue which also exists, but I think very similar technology, if I'm not
very
mistaken.
Similar technology. It's just a little bit harder because when you heat something, it's easier to manage. When you cool it, there's all sorts of condensation, etc.
Yes.
So that's been the challenge, but I think soon we'll have solutions.
In Kodaikanal as well, we've had interesting problems that we've had to solve due to the sort of natural cooling that happens in that environment, and condensation which can potentially happen on the ground, and how we've had to leave air gaps, for instance, between the floor and the foundation, which is something that used to happen in old times, but somewhere in the middle, like in the 1900s.
We forgot.
We forgot. And so Tamara had to come back and sort of, we had to work with restoration architects and really re-understand the old technology of how cooling naturally used to happen and comfort used to happen rather.
Yes.
And so we re-implemented all of that we learned.
That's
and
amazing.
we were able to bring us back to
that's
the standard
great.
in a sense.
That's really wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
Another company that's done a great job with that is Infosys, actually, right here in Bangalore.
Is it?
Yeah. Their campuses have radiant cooling, and it shows other companies that you can do this even in large multi-story buildings.
Yeah. We've talked a bit about, we've shared thoughts on sustainability.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Of course, yeah.
Great.
Of course.
Yeah.
So Sustainability Mafia, what's the bigger vision? What are you thinking? How do you think this whole community can grow, and what do you think you want it to be? What do you want it to look like in the next 10 years?
Oh, thanks for the question. Well, so the thought comes from a very simple fact. India needs thousands, like hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs, big entrepreneurs. They may not be the people that you read about who are super successful, but we have all the sustainability problems in the world. We are 21 of the 30 most polluted cities in the world, right? And if I say out of 100, maybe 70 or 60 would be in mid-cities. So we have, and it's not only air pollution, we have all the sustainability related challenges in the world right here. We need local solutions. We need lots and lots and lots of entrepreneurs. Few, like 30, 40 people are not going to solve the problem. Hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs, some small, some big, dealing with challenges, some local challenges, some more national challenges, some international challenges, but we need all kinds of entrepreneurs. Now, are we systematically creating these entrepreneurs? What is India doing to systematically create sustainability entrepreneurs? First of all, increasing the number, and secondly, increasing the odds of success. Right? So that's the core problem that we are thinking about and trying to solve through Sustainability Mafia. And we find that the entrepreneur first approach is the right approach. So we are actually a community of entrepreneurs. We have 80 climate tech and sustainability founders as our core members. Everything that we do is around these founders. Now, we hope to increase the number of this, but not to too large, because it's a very tight community where, the core value there is give more than you get. So if you're part of this community, you're here to give to other entrepreneurs. right? So I think that foundation of a community of entrepreneurs who are among the best in their fields, who are here to give to each other, share customers, share investors, share technology, share team, resources, thoughts, anything, is a single foundation. The problem is we want to create and support hundreds of thousands of sustainability and climate action entrepreneurs. And the path that we are taking towards doing that is actually fourfold. The first, there's a program that we have called Climate Ninjas. So as most things, it starts with education. So Climate Ninjas is a program where this is a free program. It's taught by founders. So like me, like I know energy efficiency. We have other founders who know water, waste, etc. really well. So a thought there is, if the founder, expose people for free to 10 A-class founders, their passion, and they get 1 hour with each of these founders. The passion of these founders is going to inspire students to take up careers in climate.
So you teach in colleges?
Yeah, colleges and even people who are not even, who are a little bit before college can also take this. The goal here is to inspire people to take their first job in climate. That's what it is. If their first job is in climate, they're on their way, right? They'll do good for the planet, etc. So that's the goal of this program. You asked about a 10-year goal. We actually have 2030 goals. All of our goals are 2030. 10-year, maybe I can venture something, but in 2030, I can tell you. Here, it's a million people to get their first job in climate. That's the goal of Climate Ninjas.
Fantastic.
Now, the second program is called Sustainability Ventures. This programs, we have a 3-year target to create 100 new companies in climate. So I told you about my MIT Energy Ventures course, which inspired me to start my first climate company. Sustainability Ventures is exactly that. And we have partnered with BITS and with IIT Madras and with JP University, and soon many more will come, to actually teach this credited course of going from nothing, no idea, to actually starting a company, right? And these classes, a lot of these sessions are also taught by our entrepreneurs. And the problem statements are also coming from our entrepreneurs. For example, in energy efficiency, I know 100 other businesses that should be started, that need to be started. But I can't start 100 businesses. So these students who are looking for ideas, looking for real problems to solve, we seed them. We build an idea bank, we seed them. We say, look, this is a great problem. If you want to solve this problem, I'll mentor you. Right? So like that, we have many real problems which can turn into good businesses that we bring to the classes. Then handhold the students to form a company. And again, this is all credited in partnership with universities. And these universities have been fantastic to take it up and to actually inculcate it in their course curricula. And then there's a grant. So the next problem happens with money. Like India is not a very rich country. So people who go to college, they have this pressure of getting a job as soon as they come out of college. So that means people who are really good entrepreneurs, who can be really good entrepreneurs, are taking jobs. So, through culture and also through grant. So we came up with this thing called a Big Pie grant. Pie is named after my little son. So the grant is 31.4 lakhs. So we thought we'll give a grant which is substantial enough that allows a team of really good, like 2-3 people, to at least dedicate 12 months, 18 months after they graduate into their dream company that they want to build. And in these 12-18 months, they should make enough progress to attract some seed money or something. But for those first 12-18 months, we'll give them grants. So that is called SAS Ventures. The third program is for companies. It's called Corporado. Here the program is for companies like, who want to adopt sustainability solutions, but they don't know where to start. So, we're working with Swiggy, for example. They want to, work on packaging. Now, they are not packaging experts. In sustainable packaging, they don't know pretty much where to look, but we have some of the best sustainability packaging founders in our network. So we kind of curate what is the solution that you're looking for, who are the best founders out there. We put them in a room immediately, right, with the top of both sides discussing, and that identification problem is solved. Right? Like, where do I look for the solution? And Swiggy could have, by the way, 10 other needs of sustainability, right? That I want batteries for my scooters, or who's going to lease me my next 100,000 vehicles. We have founders who have all these solutions. So you don't need to hunt and find. You can come to us and say, look, this is what I need.
That's huge.
And we have all the founders.
That's huge. I actually need something for bubble wrap, by the way, if you
I'm
know
sure we'll help you
anybody.
find it. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually, I know
note that down,
myself,
we'll
I know
help you find
Tamara has a requirement. I have another responsible business that I know of in lighting who is looking for bubble wrap.
Excellent.
So yeah, I mean,
Excellent.
it's a massive problem that you're solving. It's really great. I mean,
Yes.
I think, organizations like us would benefit greatly from it.
Amazing.
And I think you left me with a lot of inspiration, because there are programs that we've done which I think are similar in a sense to the one that you were talking about that you're doing The first one that you mentioned, which is we have a
Climate
program.
Angel. Yeah.
We have a program called Responsible Hoteliers of Tomorrow,
Okay.
which essentially is what we try to do is we have college students who do their internships with Tamara, but we try to make sure that they get a responsible perspective to operations. And so all of our learnings around sustainability, we try to make sure that they understand that, and then they work on projects while they work with us.
Amazing.
So it's, and you know, they leave us with a lot of recommendations, and the hope is that these students, they may come and join Tamara, of course, but they'll join many other organizations.
They'll
as
take it
well.
with them.
They'll take it with them, and so you're building this culture
Absolutely.
of being responsible and knowing
Yes.
sustainability and understanding and not being overwhelmed by it
Yes.
before they reach that point where they actually could be leaders in their own right,
Yes.
right? And so they're able to think that, okay, this is possible. It's not impossible, right? Like going back to the ego issue that you were mentioning, they are already set with that mindset of being innovative and being open-minded.
We are seeing this play out already. We've done about 8 batches of climate ninjas, and we found most of the people who go through this take up some job in climate, right? And then some of them got great jobs in good companies, and they carry the spirit and they're learning throughout. So yeah, big fan of that. I think that's going to make a big change. So I'll answer now your 10-year.
Okay.
So 10-year, I think we want to make climate tech the information technology of yesterday, right? Everybody in India wanted to be an IT professional. So in 10 years, we should have so many successes in climate that every young Indian wants to be a climate professional.
That would be amazing.
Because we need it.
We do need it. That is true.
So, and there'll be enough opportunity. So it's not only about enough successes, enough good opportunity to create meaningful livelihood, right? Good jobs, good companies, where every young Indian wants to build a career or a company in climbing.
And I like the approach, right? The collaborative approach that you're taking to this, because I think that is what could make it even potentially possible.
Yes, that it is required.
It's very
The
difficult.
ecosystem is what is required.
Yeah.
And we see ourselves with founders at the middle of it, right? To create that ecosystem, which is centered around excellence, right? Because we recruit the founders very carefully. They have to be among the best in their field, right? Because you have to have the credibility, right? With the companies, with the students, with the, the mentorship of new companies, you have to have only the best. So that curation of, quality control over founders is something that is really core to us, which is going to allow us to do a high quality job everywhere. And the last, program of sustainability mafia is Investado program. So we believe that everybody should be a climate investor. And there's a lot of people in India who want to invest. They anyways invest in startups. But, you might have hundreds of friends who want to invest in climate tech startups. But where do they invest? How do they find the next big thing? So we have a program called Investado. It's the goal over there is to move $100 million of private individual capital, not institutional capital, individual capital in the next 3 years. Now, because once people make 3, 4, 5 investments in climate, they're on their way. But how do they identify which pockets to look in? Where is innovation happening? What's happening in water? If you want to invest in water, what's happening there? Again, we'll have founders to educate, right? Like, okay, here are the few white spaces in water. Here are the institutes that are doing really good work in water. We might have some good companies coming out of such ventures who are working in water. So like that, closing the loop with money as well, because investment is important, adoption of solutions is important, creation of companies is important, and creation of talent is important. So these are the problems that we are working on.
So pulling it back to kind of where we started, if you're approached by a business leader who's now for the first time interested in looking at energy efficiency, what's the first thing that you think that they should do? What's the first step?
If they're interested in energy efficiency.
They're looking at, finally, my organization's ready to think about this, right? Mindset something has shifted. They've seen, there's some benefit to this. Let me start thinking about this. This could mean something maybe for society, but more likely for their bottom line.
Right. I think the first, there's a very, very well-known line called, when you measure something, you start caring about it. So that's the first thing. And I'll tell you, it shocked me that, I'll just lay it out for you a little bit. Like India's overall energy, at least 10% of that is cooling.
Mm-hmm.
Now in cooling, there is only one number that matters, which is kilowatts per ton. Now for your car, you know what's a good mileage, kilometers per liter. That's your energy efficiency of your car. Every individual knows what's good, bad, ugly. But when it comes to cooling, kilowatts per ton. Nobody, even people who are practicing in the industry, they don't know what's good, bad, and ugly. Right? In fact, they don't even know what is happening in their sites. What's the number? So I think it all starts with metrics and measurement. So to learn about what are the metrics that matter for your business, right? So in cooling, it's kilowatts per ton of cooling. In compressed air, it's kilowatt per CFM of compressed air, right? For any other, like for an industry, it may be kilowatts per ton of product. So what is your current level? How do you compare with the best in the industry? That will give you a very clear idea about how far you are from what's possible today, right? And what we find is that there is a huge difference between the people who are the best and the people who are in the median. I'm not even talking about the worst. Even the best and the median, there is a huge delta. And all of that is profit sitting on the side. So it starts with that. In fact, for cooling, people ask me, what is your top recommendation? For cooling, if India has to become more energy efficient in cooling, what can we do to make a very big difference quickly? Mandate reporting of kilowatts per ton. That's it. Because then the owner knows, look, my plant is 1.5 kilowatts per ton, and a good plant is 0.7 kilowatts per ton. I'm wasting at least half of what I'm consuming. The tenant knows. If somebody is renting property in one of the big, office buildings, they will know what is the efficiency of the plant over there. They know if they're paying double for energy every month or not. Right now, they don't. They have no idea. They don't have a way to compare one office building against another. A person who's looking to rent an office in a mall, they don't know whether that mall is going to cost them every month for the whole period where they rent double of the mall down the road, because this metric is not there. So I think that's a very, very clear and obvious and simple one.
I think you and I talk the same language, because this is exactly what I say when it comes to everyone, to sustainability in general. Just start measuring, and you'll start to understand, right? At least you may not be able to benchmark against others, but you'll be able to benchmark within your own organization, right? So like, for instance, we have multiple properties, we're able to benchmark them against each other. The challenge that I have found is, though, the lack of information which is available at an industry level. And that actually brings me to somewhat, the closing of this. Tamara Perspectives, we focused a lot on benchmarks. And how can we, one, start sharing information so that we can have better benchmarks for each other? How can we set targets for ourselves so that we know that there's constant improvement? So do you have any thoughts or advice on this in terms of like how one would approach looking at benchmarking and looking at improving oneself?
For specifically what Tamara you are asking?
No, I'm
any
in
organization.
general, yeah.
See, I think at least now we are in a place where benchmarks for sustainability, water, waste, energy, air quality, they are pretty simple to find. Like no matter what your business is, you talked about ChatGPT earlier. Just type in there what metrics are appropriate to my business. You will get the answer. So that is one. Second good news is that measuring these things has also become very cheap and very effective. So extremely simple, right? 1, 2, 3 instruments, and you'll measure the most important. Now, what's important here is you focus on the most important numbers, because it's easy to get lost. For example, in energy, I told you, in cooling, kilowatts per ton. That's it. Nothing else matters. Now, people will give you 100 other numbers, but then you'll get lost. If you focus on the one that matters, and there is maybe 5 for a complete organization, not only energy, the other aspects. That's it. Just drive those numbers, make sure there's measurement on those numbers and communication on those numbers. Regular communication around those numbers. For example, to drive, now I'll give you an example of my company. Kilowatts per ton is a North Star metric. But to drive kilowatts per ton, there are 10 sub-matrices that go into that.
Of course.
Right? So we track all of those sub-10, right? And we talk about them in every single time we have a company meeting and reports. That look, this is how we are driving this number low and low and better and better and better. So I think that's the kind of focus that is required. And once you institute it, it's pretty simple to keep it carrying on. And then it gets to the latest intern, the latest hire. They will find that, okay, these are the numbers that matter. And, that's what I need to become better and better at. Yeah.
So thanks, Arjun. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you.
I've learned a lot in this conversation. And wishing all the very best of luck
Thank
to
you.
Smart Joules and all of your initiatives. In fact, I think it's
Thank you
been
so much.
really interesting to hear about them. And I'm sure, like, if your dream of, you said, how many? 1 million?
1 million climate ninjas by
1 million
2030.
climate ninjas. If that can happen, I
Yes.
think we can be a proud nation. And and be living a better life, honestly, as as residents of this country. So I really hope that comes true, and I support you in any way that
Thank you so
can
much.
make
You're
that
already
happen.
doing that by bringing the message to so many people who are going to see this, and you're practicing it in your facilities. So that's really wonderful. And I've taken one to do for me for packaging.
Yes,
So that
please.
is something that we will help you solve.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
At least we'll find the right answer and what is the state of the art, if there's a solution or not, and if not, we can create a challenge around solving that problem.
Please
So if
do.
it's not
That would
solved.
be amazing.
So
Yes.
that's our approach, right?
Yeah.
If there's a problem, it needs to be solved either existing or new. We can do both.
Awesome.
So I'd love to partner with you on this journey. Thank you
Sounds
so
good.
much.
Thanks, Arjun.
Thank you.